Hi, my name is Dree, and this project is called Shaping Biodiversity, Nick Points and Darters in the Tennessee River Basin. I did this project with Maya Stokes and Professor Taylor Perrin from the EAPS department and also through the MIT Summer Research Program. Thanks so much for tuning in. So, mountains are only about a quarter of global land area, but they host the vast majority of biodiversity. And this is kind of an open puzzle in earth science. What is the relationship between the physical landscape and biodiversity? So this is both just interesting from a basic science perspective, but also because of conservation. As extinction rates increase, we want to understand what creates biodiversity so we can better conserve it. So one idea is that as mountain ranges grow, they create physical barriers that drive speciation. So they split up a population, and then over time they evolve to be different. So with that, our hypothesis is that nick points, which are really steep areas of a river, drive speciation of darter species in the Tennessee River Basin. So here's a map of the upper Tennessee River Basin, showing all the different major tributaries or parts of the river, and you can see that a lot of the fish are living in the kind of lower parts. So the idea is that these steep parts of the river prevent the fish from swimming into other sections of the river, and therefore over time they evolve to be different. So our study site is the Tennessee River Basin because it actually has the highest amount of fish diversity in the entire US. Also, we're looking at the greenfin darter because we have a lot of data for it from the Tennessee Valley Authority, and it is a threatened species. So our methodology first uses species distribution modeling to ask what variables in general are important to the habitat of the greenfin darter. That helps us contextualize our hypothesis, which is asking how nick points are related to the distribution of the greenfin darter. So first, we put a bunch of environmental variables like different rock types, elevation, precipitation, and temperature into a generalized linear model and ran a regression on those variables and where the fish are, where the fish aren't. You can see that the results are that two rock types, metamorphic and metasedimentary rock, as well as temperature, are really important. So temperature could mean that an external variable is important, it's not geological, or it could have connections to geology. There's lots to explore there. But with rock types, this is really interesting because we know that nick points form on the boundaries between different rock types because they erode and create that steep part of the river. So we looked more into the nick points. Here is an example of how we analyzed finding the steepest part of the river. And we found that these steep parts, 5 out of 7 of them, are on this boundary between metasedimentary and metamorphic rock, the two rock types that were really important in our regression. So that suggests that nick points might be really important to the distribution of the greenfin darter. So that's promising. So next, we dove more into the nick points, mapping out. So the blue and green dots here are the lower and upper parts of the nick points of the steep parts of the river, and then the small white dots are where the greenfin darter has been found. And you can see that we actually have an unexpected result here, which is that most of the greenfin darters are actually living within the nick points, and also a bunch of them even downstream of them, not upstream like we expected. So that means if they're living within the nick points, that might contradict our hypothesis because that's saying that might imply the nick points aren't really a barrier because they like to live within them. But it does imply that the nick points are important to them in some way. So maybe they aren't serving as a barrier to speciation, but they're important to their habitat in some other way. So there's lots to explore here. One future direction is that we want to explore the river network structure more deeply, looking at different kinds of river networks and look at how that influences the fish dispersal. So I'll be continuing to work on that throughout the summer and fall. And also we want to delve into the temperature data, exploring why temperature is important, and also including variables like land use, things like that. So thank you so much to Professor Taylor Perrin and Maya Stokes for their thoughtful guidance throughout this whole summer. It was so fun working with the Perrin Lab. Also, thank you to our data source, and finally to the MSRP program for an incredible summer. So please reach out to me at any time at dree@mit.edu. I would love to talk about earth science, biodiversity, and anything else. Thank you for listening.